A weekly homework, May June 2017, paper 4, variant 1. I will go through each question. If any question you have doubt, you will mention the part related to that question. Question number 1. Is there any doubt in question 1, any part of question 1? 1b. In the question, why is hydrogen 1 atom is the only atom that have identical proton number and nucleon number? Look, what is a nucleon number? The nucleon number is a sum of proton and neutron. For hydrogen, why the proton number is same as the nucleon number? Because hydrogen does not contain any neutron, or there is no neutron, or neutron number is 0. So if this number is 0, so what it shows? It shows that, because if this number is 0, it shows that the proton number will be same as nucleon number. So you will mention the answer. You will simply mention that hydrogen does not contain any neutron. That is why the nucleon number and the proton numbers are same. Question number 2. Is there any doubt in question 2? Feel free to ask your doubts. You can use a private chat as message for your doubts, or you can mention your doubts by using a mic. In question number 2, these oxides are given. Answer the following questions using only oxide from the list. Each oxide may be used once, more than once, and not, or not at all. And give the formula of oxide. What is the main cause of acid rain? So acid rain is mainly caused due to sulfur dioxide, because when we burn fuel containing sulfur, release sulfur dioxide, which mix with water, forms sulfurous acid, leads to acid rain, which would give a pH of 14 when added. So basically make a strong alkali. Metal oxide or basic oxide, so sodium oxide, when it dissolves, it will form a solution alkaline and it will form sodium hydroxide, which will make a pH of 14, means strong alkali, which is colored. To be colored, there should be a transition element. So which oxide contain a transition element? This is the only oxide which contain a transition element. So Cr chromium 3 oxide, which is a major impurity of in iron ore. So the major impurity, because iron ore contain sand, or we also say silicon 4 oxide. Amphoteric, the 3 amphoteric oxide which you have to learn: zinc, aluminium, lead. So aluminum oxide is there, that is amphoteric, that's why it is Al2O3. A neutral, which is a neutral oxide, carbon monoxide is a neutral oxide. So it is related to memorization of the type of oxide. You can also identify the type of oxide. If it is a metal, is there metal oxide, non-metal is there non-metal oxide. Amphoteric oxides which can react with both. So what is meant by the term amphoteric oxide? So term amphoteric oxide means it can react with both acid and alkali. What is the term neutral oxide means? The term neutral oxide means does not react with acid or alkali. So no reaction with acid or no reaction with alkali. Question number 3. Is there any doubt in question 3? 3A and so I will discuss this question. In this question, magnesium sulfate and lead sulfate are examples of salts. So these are two examples of salt. A student prepare magnesium sulfate crystal from magnesium carbonate. The student carried out the experiment in 4 steps. So he's using a magnesium carbonate. What he did, the student add an excess of magnesium carbonate. Excess of magnesium carbonate to sulfuric acid. Like in the beginning, a solution of sulfuric acid was there, H2SO4. But what student is doing, he's adding magnesium carbonate in excess. What is the meaning of excess? Excess means when more than enough what we need for a reaction. So all of the acid used up, when this sulfuric acid is used up, what it will turn into, because when magnesium carbonate react with sulfuric acid, it will form magnesium sulfate plus carbon dioxide plus water. So this will turn into a solution of magnesium sulfate, a soluble. Most sulfates are soluble except barium, calcium and lead. So magnesium sulfate will be soluble. And the unreacted magnesium carbonate, which does not react, the unreacted magnesium carbonate will be solid. So sulfuric acid will turn into magnesium sulfate solution, and unreacted magnesium carbonate, the magnesium carbonate which does not react, will remain undissolved because it does not react. Then student filter the mixture. So when he filter the mixture, what will happen? Magnesium carbonate, which is insoluble or does not dissolve, that will be a residue left on the filter paper, and the solution is the filtrate is magnesium sulfate. The student heated the filtrate to obtain from step 2 until it saturates. The student allowed the hot filtrate to cool and then he removed the crystals. How did the student know when the reaction is finished? Because when acid react with carbonate, you will see bubbles. So how he will know that the acid completely reacted with carbonate, or all of the acid is used up? So there will be no more bubbles, no more fizz, effervescence, or effervescence will be there. In short, I wrote EFF, which is effervescence. So if you don't observe any effervescence, it means all of the carbonate is used up. Sorry, all of the acid is used up, because in the question they mentioned magnesium carbonate is in excess. So magnesium carbonate, when you are adding still the unreacted magnesium carbonate will left. Name the residue. When I filter this solution, this will be aqueous. So this will be filtrate, which will pass through the filter paper. And what will be the residue? The residue will be magnesium carbonate. Is it clear why the magnesium carbonate is a residue? Then a saturated solution forms in step 3. What is saturated solution means? What is the definition of a saturated solution? So basically saturated solution, the definition of a saturated solution means a solution which cannot dissolve any solute, or no more solute can dissolve at a particular temperature, because solubility changes with temperature. So solution which cannot dissolve solute at a fixed temperature, at a specific temperature, we call that as a saturated solution. Like at 40 degree, it cannot dissolve two more or any more salt or solute. We call that solution as saturated. Explain why magnesium sulfate crystals form during step 4. So what we are doing in step 4, what is the reason why magnesium sulfate crystals are formed? So the student allow the hot filtrate to cool down. If you have a solution which is at 40 degrees centigrade and you cool down the solution to the same solution to 20 degrees centigrade, which solution can dissolve more solute at 40 or at 20? At 40, because higher temperature, this saturated solution is of magnesium sulfate. So at higher temperature, the solubility is higher, but at lower temperature, the solubility is lower. So what will happen? Like example, if 2 gram is dissolved at 40 degree, so at 20 degree, only 1 gram can dissolve. So what will happen to the remaining 1 gram? That remaining 1 gram will appear as a crystal. So what is the reason? The question is, what is the reason why magnesium sulfate crystals form during step 4? Because when the solution cool down, its solubility decreases. So as its solubility decreases, it cannot dissolve too much salt. So if it cannot dissolve too much salt, the salt which was initially dissolved will appear as a solid. Part B, you don't have to solve part B. That is related to moles. Then in part C, lead sulfate is insoluble salt. So how we prepare insoluble salt? By mixing the two salt solutions. When salt solution A mix with salt solution B, this will result in a formation of one insoluble salt C, and there will be another soluble salt. So when you mix two salt solution, this will result in a formation of one insoluble salt and another one a soluble salt solution, which this process is known as ionic precipitation. Now we want to prepare lead sulfate crystals. Describe how would you prepare pure dry sample of lead sulfate starting from a solution of lead nitrate and sodium sulfate. So if we have lead nitrate, if I write a word equation, so we have lead nitrate, all nitrates are soluble. We mix with sodium sulfate, group 1, all salts are soluble. When it mix with each other, one ion replaces the other, like sodium will take position of lead, lead will take position of sodium. So this will result in a formation of lead sulfate plus sodium nitrate. So we will have aqueous lead nitrate, we will have sodium sulfate. When we mix, it will form solid lead sulfate and it will form silver nitrate. This is a word equation I wrote. But practically how we will do this experiment, how we carry out this. So first what we will do, we will take solution of lead nitrate and mix with solution of sodium sulfate, which forms precipitate or a solid. Basically, the insoluble, when insoluble salt is formed by, or insoluble, if a solid is formed by mixing solution, we call that as a precipitate. So it will form precipitate. Then what we will do, we will filter, because that precipitate is lead sulfate, and we will wash the residue, like use filtration, with distilled water, then dry the solid by a tissue paper, or even a filter paper can be used. Is it clear how we prepare a sample of lead sulfate by mixing two soluble salt solution? One is lead nitrate, another one is sodium sulfate. So whenever ionic precipitation or insoluble salt we prepare, we always mix the two salt solutions. Why do they replace each other? Actually, it is not this is called a double displacement. It is not actually a replacement. What happened? Because when you have solution, like I was having a solution of lead nitrate, so I'm having a lead ion. So these ions are not stationary, they are continuously moving. And we have nitrate ion, they are also moving. And we have another sodium ion is there, and we have sulfate ion. So these ions are not stationary, these ions are moving. But when we mix them together in one container, so when we mix them into another container, we have a lead ion, we have nitrate ion, we have sodium ion, and we have sulfate ion. So what happened? These are possibilities. These ions collide with each other. When lead collide with nitrate, it will form lead nitrate, that will be soluble. So we will not observe anything. When lead collide with sulfate, it will form lead sulfate, and that will be the precipitate. So this lead ion is colliding with both nitrate, sulfate, even it is colliding with sodium. But what it result? It result only when lead collided with sulfate, it result in a formation of lead sulfate, which will be a solid, so it will settle down at the bottom. It's not like a displacement, like the more reactive displaces the less reactive. It is actually when we mix the two solutions, ions are continuous in a state of the motion. They collide with each other, and collision leads to multiple products. And one of the product which is formed is insoluble or a solid. That's why we'll observe a precipitate or PPT. Then write an ionic equation. Ionic equation is always from a symbolic equation. So if I write a symbolic equation, formula for lead nitrate, lead 2 nitrate, so PbS, PbNO3 bracket 2. Equation must be balanced. This is a equation first. Sodium sulfate, it will be Na2SO4. Why? Because sulfate is -2, sodium is +1. This gives lead sulfate, PbSO4 plus sodium nitrate, NaNO3. So first thing, equation must be balanced. So I put 2, equation is balanced. Now the states, all nitrates are soluble. So aqueous Group 1 salt soluble aqueous. Lead sulfate is solid and sodium nitrate is aqueous. This is the equation, but we don't need equation, symbolic equation. We need ionic equation. So lead is common both side. In aqueous, what is common? Lead is common. You can, sorry, nitrate is common both sides, so you cancel out nitrate. And sodium is common, so you cancel out sodium. So what you are left with? You're left with, to write an ionic equation, what you're left with? You're left with lead ions. You're left with sulfate ion, and this will result in a formation of lead sulfate. Is it clear? The ionic equation for this reaction. For everyone, is it clear? The ionic equation for reaction between lead and sulfate ion. Yes, you can also, that is also a simple way to write an ionic equation, because in short, if you want to write an ionic equation, because my final product is lead sulfate, the shortest method to write an ionic equation, so I want lead sulfate. So what ion should react to form this lead sulfate? So there should be a lead ion and there should be a sulfate ion. That is the shortest way to write an ionic equation. Question number 4, any doubt? Is there any doubt in question 4? 4 part C. Okay. So we have, this is a chemical cell. When zinc and copper rod are placed into a dilute sulfuric acid, electricity is generated. First, what is the chemistry of this cell? Which is more reactive metal, zinc or copper? Which is more reactive metal here? So zinc is more reactive metal. So zinc atom, because it is more reactive, it will go inside the solution as a zinc ion. And when zinc atom will go inside the solution as a zinc ion, it will lose electrons. So there will be a loss of electron. And these electrons travel, because electron cannot move through the electrolyte, electrons can only flow through the wires. So when these electrons move through the wire, they transfer their energy, so the bulb or the lamp light up. So majority of the electrons will be on the other side now. The electrons are negative, and what are the positive ions present? Because it is sulfuric acid, so there is a hydrogen ion and sulfate ion. So positive ions are attracted towards the electron. Which one is a less reactive positive ion, zinc or hydrogen? So hydrogen is a less reactive positive ion. So this hydrogen is attracted towards electron. So at copper electrode, when these two hydrogen gain 2 electron, it will form hydrogen gas. So what we will observe or see, we will see bubbles. So this is the chemistry of this cell, that zinc loses electron which travel through the circuit. Then electron, when it returned to the second electrode, the copper electrode, hydrogen ion from the electrolytes are attracted towards the electrode and form hydrogen gas. The more reactive metal tend to lose electron easily. So here zinc is more reactive. So zinc atom will go inside the solution as a zinc ion. So when zinc atom will go inside the solution as a zinc ion, the electrons will travel from zinc surface to copper surface. Electrons are negative, So these electrons are attracted towards the hydrogen because hydrogen is a less reactive positive ion. So hydrogen ions are attracted towards the electron and which result in a formation of hydrogen gas. So we will see bubbles. So the question is, write the ionic half equation for reaction that occur at zinc electrode. So what happened at zinc electrode? So zinc electrode, what happened? Basically zinc atom go inside the solution by loss of 2 electrons change to zinc ion. Write ionic half equation that occur at copper electrode. So what happened at copper? The hydrogen ions from the solution, the electrolyte will take electron and change to hydrogen gas. So this is a loss of electrons, so oxidation, and this one is a gain of electrons, so reduction. How hydrogen is present in the solution? Because it is a sulfuric acid. So acid are proton donor, that's why hydrogen sulfate is there. The more reactive metal, because the reactivity of the metal is tendency to lose electron, so more reactive metal can lose electron easily, that's why they turn into positive ion first. The copper rod was replaced by iron, suggests a change in the intensity of the bulb. So when you write the reactivity series, you have potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron, lead, copper, mercury, silver, gold, platinum. Now when you check the reactivity, first you was using zinc and copper. So zinc and copper, they have greater difference in the reactivity as compared to zinc and iron. So smaller difference in the reactivity, electron will move slower. So if I use one electrode made up of zinc and another one made up of iron, so electron will travel from zinc to iron, but the movement of the electron will be slow or they will have less energy. So when we have a greater difference in the reactivity, so the movement of the electron in the circuit will be faster or electron will transfer greater amount of energy. So what will happen to the intensity of the bulb? Suggests the copper rod is replaced by iron. Suggests the change, if any, to the intensity of the light. So it will decrease. And what is the reason for that? Because there is a small difference between the reactivity of zinc and iron. Is it clear? The third part. So if I want to produce the highest voltage, I should increase the distance, the difference in the reactivity. If I want to produce a small voltage, I should reduce the difference in the, like take two metals which have small difference in their reactivity. Is it clear? Part C2, C3, sorry. Question number 5. Is there any doubt in question 5? Question 5. Is there any doubt? Five A, B, and 5 part F. Name the two pieces of apparatus needed to take the measurement shown on the graph. So we want to measure the volume of a gas. So to measure the volume of the gas, what we need a gas syringe. And to measure a time, because on x-axis we have a time, so we need a stopwatch. On axis below, sketch a graph to show how rate of a reaction changes. So in rate of the reaction represented by a slope. So in the beginning the rate is fast, then the rate slow down, and then the rate is zero or the reaction stop, because the slope represent the rate or the speed of the reaction. So in the beginning, and at what time the reaction stop? When time is 120, the reaction completely stop, or rate is zero. So in the begin, it started with x, that is the fastest. Then the rate is decreasing, and at 120 it will be zero. Is it clear? The rate or the speed of the reaction in the beginning is having the highest value, but it is decreasing with the passage of a time. And when it is 120, the reaction finish. You can see at 120, the slope is zero, so the reaction finish. Part C is not, it is related to stoichiometry, so you don't have to do part C. Part C is related to chapter 4 moles, that we will do at the last after organic chemistry. The original graph has been drawn again. On a grid, draw a graph expected if same mass of barium carbonate is added as a large lump instead of powder. So if I use large lumps instead of powder, large lump will react slowly, powder will react faster. So I should plot a graph with the same condition, same result. So surface area is decreased. So what happened to the reaction? The rate of reaction slow down. So this will be the, it will take longer time for reaction to complete. Then explain why your graph is different from the original one. You will mention lumps will have a small surface area, so less collisions, reduce the rate. Part E, the original graph has been drawn again. On the grid, draw a graph expected if the concentration of dilute hydrochloric acid is changed from 0.1 mole to 0.2. So we are using more concentrated HCl. If I use more concentrated HCl, what will be the effect? It will increase the rate of the reaction, but as we know, in the beginning they mentioned that this HCl was in excess. Here a student carry out an experiment. A student added a small barium carbonate to an excess of acid. Excess of acid means acid is more than enough. So if I increase the amount of excess reagent, what will happen? It will only affect the rate of the reaction, but it will not affect the final product. So the rate of the reaction will change. It will become steeper because concentrated acid, but the final product will be same, because we are changing the excess reagent. If we change, there are two reagent. One is the limiting. When you have two reactants, one is the limiting reactant and another one is already excess. Excess means more than enough. So if I change the limiting reagent, what will happen? If we change the limiting reagent, it will affect two things. It will affect the rate and the product, both. But if we add an access reagent, if we change the access reagent, the reagent which is already more than enough for a reaction, so only thing which it affect is the rate. It will not affect the final product. So increasing the concentration, they mention in the question, if you read this part, in the beginning they already mentioned that acid is in excess. And in the beginning of the question, it is written excess of hydrochloric acid. Excess of hydrochloric acid means for this reaction, we have more than enough hydrochloric acid. So when we change the excess reagent, only the rate will change, but the final product will be same. So it will affect the rate as more molecules per unit area collide, but the final product remain same because limiting reagent is barium carbonate. So if we change the limiting reagent, then the rate will change as well as the final product will also change. But if we change an access reagent, the rate will change only, the final will be same. The experiment is changed and the mass of the barium carbonate is doubled. So barium carbonate is a limiting reagent. All other conditions remain same. Reduce the volume of gas formed. So look, when you are using, this is barium carbonate. When you are using a small amount of barium carbonate, this is a volume of the gas given off, 180. If I double barium carbonate, so rate of the reaction will also increase and the volume will also be doubled. So if I'm getting 180, then what will be the final volume? What is the double of 180? That is 360. So changing the limiting reagent will change the amount of the product and the rate. So if I change barium, I double barium carbonate, so rate will be double as well as the amount of the product will be double. But if I change the limiting reagent, rate will increase, but the amount of the product will remain same. Is it clear, this question? Question 5 of May, June 2017.
Sir.
Yes. Afif,
Sir,
less than
could
a
you?
minute left. Less than a minute left, so you can ask your question in the next session. Like I will share a link after a minute. Otherwise, it will
Okay,
not
sir.
be complete.
Okay, sir. No problem. It's a short question, bas.
No problem. You can ask